Next news is out of Australia. Voters in Australia are against the return of ISIS wives and kids. So a Newspoll found that 59% of 1,634 voters polled between October 17th and 19th are opposed to the return of 20 Australian women and 46 children that are stranded, and only 36% are in favor.
These are Australian citizens?
These are Australian citizens that right now are stranded in refugee camps in northern Syria following the defeat of ISIS.
And their kids. So these are Australian voters that are for punishing children because of the choices of their parents?
Right.
Bring
those kids home. Look, I don't think the average person has really looked in what a refugee camp in Syria is like. And we actually covered this. You and I, Armin, covered this about 10 months ago. There were 2 children who were begging to come back home, right? And the grandma in Australia was doing everything, going through courts, fighting so hard to get her grandchildren. One of her grandchildren was a 15-year-old who had 3 children. Wow. 15-year-old, okay? And she's fighting. She's doing everything she can to get her grandchildren back into Australia, and they're just not having it because she was a part of ISIS. So what we don't understand here, guys, is they are living in absolute hell where they are. They have been through it, and most of them, all of them not by choice, okay? And the fact that people can't see past their own hatred of ISIS to say, hey, you know what? These are our children. All those children, they're every citizen in Australia, they're their children, okay? They belong in Australia. They deserve to come home. They're living in hell. And the fact that these people can't see through ISIS, right, is just beyond me.
Yeah, but how do they justify it? Like, there must be, like, can we steelman their argument? What is their best argument? Why would they be okay with kids being stranded somewhere? These kids that are citizens of Australia be stranded somewhere because of the decisions of their parents. Like, how would they justify that?
I don't know.
So we haven't heard. Okay, maybe when we scroll down, we hear an argument. But honestly, even the wives, these are Australian citizens. So like these Australian voters are in favor of violating Australian rules. Like, aren't you like? I don't. You guys do understand that a citizen of a country is still a citizen of your country, even if they're criminals. And they
okay.
That's the whole point of being a citizen, is that, yes, you get punished, you get imprisoned, but you do that while being protected by the laws and all the protection that your country has to offer. That's the whole point of being a citizen. Like, just because all of a sudden you're a criminal, that doesn't remove your rights as a citizen of a country. You know, the due process, the representation in a court of law. You know, that doesn't mean that you don't get punished. That doesn't mean you don't go to jail. But I don't think that means you get abandoned somewhere just because you're a criminal. You're still a citizen of a country. I mean, your rights doesn't become less than other.
You're absolutely right. But this is what the federal government is saying. So far, the federal government has resisted calls for them to be brought home, saying the situation is too dangerous and would endanger the lives of defense troops sent to retrieve them.
Oh, okay. That's a fair point, though. That is a fair point. If that's the argument, I'll buy into that. If they're being honest about it, right? So if you're doing a cost-benefit analysis, and you're like, listen, this is gonna be the cost of this is. I mean, it does show that your country is not as committed to saving its citizens as a country like United States, for example, right?
Yeah.
So it does make, you know what it does? It makes your citizenship valued less. So, for example, you know that your citizenship is valued so much when you are like stranded in a country, like United States citizenship, for example. You could feel like that. Yeah, I can see why I'm a United States citizen when you are captured by Somali pirates, and all of a sudden United States sends its best, like a whole army to save you, right? You're like, yeah, this is why I'm a U.S. citizen. Like, I have the full protection of the U.S. military if I'm under threat by hostiles in other countries, right? So you could be like, in that situation, you will be more, you value your U.S. citizenship more than your Australian citizenship, right? So by not going on and getting your citizens, what you're effectively doing is saying like, look, your citizenship is worth less than a U.S. citizenship. That's what it means, right?
Yeah.
So, but still, I'll still buy that if you're doing a cost benefit analysis and saying that we could save this many lives, but these women are not going to die. They're just going to probably live in a really horrible situation. And if we want to send somebody to get them, they might actually die, and we might actually start a conflict. So cost benefit analysis, we're not going to send anybody, right? So maybe you're right. I don't know if you're being honest or if there's other reasons why you're doing this. But if you're being honest, maybe you're right, okay? But if the argument of these voters, my suspicion is that these motives are like, F these people, they're ISIS anyways, right? If that's your argument, I don't buy that. Because what's the difference between the citizens that join ISIS compared to your other citizens that are criminals, right? So let's say an Australian citizen that raped and murdered a whole bunch of people, but they're still an Australian citizen. They're going to go to jail. They're going to pay for their crimes, but they're going to still enjoy their rights. They're going to still be able to get lawyers. They're still going to, like, for example, you don't get to just torture them. You don't just kill them. You don't get to throw them out of the country. They're still going to be able to have representation in court, to defend themselves, to be able to enjoy, being protection from harm in prison. For example, if somebody in prison wants to kill them, they're going to enjoy protection. Like, as a citizen of Australia, you will be able to enjoy all those rights even if you're a criminal. So what does joining ISIS have, does that strip away all your rights all of a sudden? No, you're a criminal, and just like any other citizen that is a criminal, you're going to be treated the same way. You shouldn't be treated differently. You shouldn't be, your citizenship shouldn't be taken away from you. You remember, if you're in support of citizenship being taken away, you're setting a really bad precedent. You are devaluing the citizenship of your entire country because of a few people. How many ISIS wives do we have in Australia? How many are they? I don't know how many are. They're probably like less than 100. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Probably less than 100. For less than 100 people, you're going to devalue. You're going to basically stand against the laws of your own country, the rights that your citizenship offers, and the value of being a citizen of Australia because of a few hundred people. I mean, what if these women come back? Do you think they're just going to be free to walk the streets? Well, they should come back and they should pay for their crimes. They should say, it doesn't mean they're going to come back and they're just going to be free. They're going to come back and they should go to prison. You're not doing them any favors. Yes, they have rights, but under those rights, you basically, under the rights that you have as a citizen of Australia, that includes going to, that does not include being free after committing a crime. Just like other, you still go to jail. So what's the problem with that? In fact, they should come home and be studied. They should come home and people should do studies on them, and to be able to fighting radicalism. What made an Australian woman decide to go and join ISIS? These women are going to have valuable information. They're going to have valuable insight. Anyway, let me read the top comment.
There's a quote in here that I can't wrap my head around. One, because it repeats itself. That's not me doing this, but in quote, it would have been much better, of course, for certain adults not to have made certain decisions to travel, is what the Home Affairs Department Secretary Mike Paluzzo said in a Senate hearing about this. So is he saying that it would have been much better? Like, is he Captain Hindsight here, saying that it would have been awesome had these women chose not to go there in the first place? Wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah, really? Oh, It would have been great if these women didn't join ISIS. Wow, what great insight. Thank you for that. Somebody in our Facebook comments is saying they made their choice and now they are stuck with it. Again, I don't think people understand that this is not about fair, this is not about fairness. This is not about teaching these women a lesson. This is about your hate for these women. You are going to pay the price for it. The Australian citizen, if you want to, for a couple of ISIS wives, because you want to punish them more than other criminals, you are going to pay for it with the value of your citizenship. You are going to pay a bigger price for it as an Australian citizen, and if you add all of the Australians and the value of their citizenship combined, the devaluing of that combined is way more than what these women are going to be paying for it. So if you want to punish these women with that instead of just putting them in jail in Australia, if you want them to pay more by making them stay in a refugee camp, it's the Australian citizen that is going to pay for it in the long run more than these women combined. Because there are more Australian citizens than these women. Way more. Yeah. So the aggregate cost of that is going to be a lot more. Again, people have this gut, just knee-jerk reaction to these things. They just want people to suffer. Like, I hate you and your decision. I just want to get the sense of satisfaction from just seeing you suffer.
It's so creepy.
It's just like, it's not about the net effect of things on the society, on everybody, or about making the best decision. That is the long-term ramifications of making these decisions. It's just about this revenge mentality. Just like, something very biblical about it, like eye for an eye kind of thing, right? So another woman is saying, I can't read their name, I don't know how to pronounce the name, is saying they can't come back to the country they hope to destroy. Just because you lost the war, you made your choice, now deal with the consequences. Again, we already responded to this. Okay. Shopam, did you want to add anything to this?
Well, so many people are saying they made their choice and they have to live with it. I mean, I want to know, does Australian law says that if you commit certain kinds of crimes, you will retain your citizenship, and if you commit certain other kind of crimes, then you will lose your citizenship?
Right.
Does Australian law say something like this?
Like these are the list of crimes that if you want to do that, then you're not a citizen. If you could commit certain crimes and you're going to lose your citizenship, then you don't have citizenship. Then there's no point. Like, your citizenship means nothing. Like, honestly, you don't want to go there. You don't understand. And if people say, like, oh, you went against your country, so you have to suffer the consequences. Well, you are going against your country as well. The people that you're attacking the value of the citizenship of your country by arguing this. So all of the people that those arguments that you're making against these women applies to you as well, because you're attacking the value of the citizenship of your own country. So you are also attacking your country. Okay?
Just saying something like, there are most of the people saying these are atheists here. So in Saudi Arabia, Iran, atheists go against their country by saying stuff against their religion. So should they be hanged? So are atheists supporting that atheists should be hanged in Saudi Arabia and Iran because they are going against their country? Because this reasoning of going against the country doesn't make any sense. I go against my country.
Yeah,
by saying lots of stuff against you,
and a lot of people are going to think that we think these women should be we are against having consequences for women joining. Like, people are like, oh well, these atheists are supporting women who joined ISIS. No, we're not saying there shouldn't be consequences for joining ISIS. Okay, we're not saying that. Like, how stupid do you have to be for you to suggest that we're saying that, okay? There should be consequences, but you have to choose the consequences. You have to be smart for choosing the consequences, right? They have to go to jail, just like all other Australian criminals. They're criminals.
It's simple like a petty robber he isn't thrown out at the sea. He's taken to the jail when he commits the crime.
Right.
It's the same thing because, I mean, the criminals who commit crimes in the country, they aren't taken out to the sea and thrown in the water. They're taken to the jail and they suffer the consequences in the courts and there. It's the same thing. I mean, just because we are saying they're criminals. We are not saying they're not. So,
right. Okay, so for example, if I say that, I don't know, child molesting priest should still be able to defend himself in court, right? Do you Armin, are you saying there shouldn't be any consequences to molesting children? Like, when the hell did I say that, right? I never said that there shouldn't be any consequences. If they're guilty, they should see the consequences. But if you throw away their right to have a lawyer to represent them and defend them, the consequences to that is much greater than than a child molesting priest going free. Okay, you're throwing away all these things that made your country great if you take away due process. Okay, so yes, they should see consequences, but the consequences that they see shouldn't come at the cost of the values and principles and processes and systems that made your country better than their country to begin with. Don't get it, do give them the consequences, punish them, make it, there needs to be justice, but don't throw away everything that made Australia better than Syria, the countries that they are coming from. Don't throw away all the things that made your country great in the name of punishing them. Anyways.
Atheists are under attack in many places. If they were Christians, their voices would be heard. If they were Jews, their voices would be heard. If they were Muslims, their voices would be heard. But they are atheists, and not many seem to be listening. Let's make it difficult for them to ignore us. We have built a global community, and now we are tearing down geographic, cultural, and language barriers so we can find each other and support each other. In the last decade, we have built the largest atheist community in the world. Now we're doing the same in other languages. With your help, we have started Atheist Republic in Persian and Arabic.
انضميت مؤخراً لأسرة Atheist Republic وحيصير عندي بودكاست باللغة العربية.
As we grow, we can dedicate more time, staff, and resources to start doing the same in Spanish, Portuguese, Malay, Bengali, Urdu, Hindi, and other languages. We are providing community, support, informative content, and amplifying the voices of those who need protection, especially in countries where people feel isolated simply for their lack of belief. We want to be there for them, and we are only getting started. Help us get there. Check in the description for ways you can support our projects.